Hello, sir. Good evening. How are you?
I'm absolutely good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day in order
Absolutely.
to.
It's always a pleasure to interact with interns and young and prospective members of the bar.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. So I would like to just give a background about myself. My name is Sridevi Perumal, and I'm currently a third year LLB student at Symbiosis Law School, Pune. So I did my bachelor's in biomedical engineering, and now I have converted my path to law. So I would like to work somehow in the field of health law or IT law in that field. So that is what I'm looking to do. So sir, if you could introduce yourself, that would be great as well.
Basically, I am a third generation of lawyer in my family. My maternal grandfather was a lawyer, then my father was a lawyer, and then that is a law office which I've inherited. So I have been in this profession for the last 12 years now. I did my law from MUT Law School. I was a 2005-2010 batch law student. And in 2010, I was the gold medalist of my law college.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So therefore, unfortunately, in 2011, I got the opportunity of pursuing my master's from Kent Law School.
Mhm.
Due to accommodation, I could not go there. Then in 2012, I got an offer to follow my master's from London School of Economics. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, in 2012, my father passed away. So because of which, I have to stay
Okay.
back and then look after the office. And as far as we are concerned, there are certain sphere of practices which have been inherited from my father because his specialization was service law, civil law, and criminal law. And then with changing times, as is required in the current scenario, we have developed our own sphere of specialization, which is the commercial side of law. So as of right now, we have a set of team which belongs to my father, which look after the traditional side of practice, and then we have a young group of people there with me who are working with me.
Mhm.
We look after commercial litigation, arbitrations, commercial consultancy, corporate governance, and everything. So therefore, yeah, I have a team with me who have an experience of more than 30 years under their belt. So I'm lucky to have such members of my team.
Wow, that's amazing, sir. Just listening to your experiences and your achievements. Also, we just had a arbitration mediation workshop in our college.
Mm.
So it actually had been really informative. I think two directive members from the AMAS had
Mm.
come in order to impart their knowledge to us. So I could definitely see arbitration and mediation being really useful in the law field in the future.
Not
So
just the
that's.
law field, as far as our corporate clients are concerned, I'll tell you a very simple example. In today's time, my corporate clients would want an arbitration call in a lease agreement, let's say,
Mhm.
because no one wants to get into no one wants to get into that traditional litigation because it's a very time-consuming affair.
Yes,
A
sir.
civil suit which will span over 5 or 6 years, a commercial arbitration, an arbitration appointment of an arbitrator, maybe 2 or 3 months, an arbitral referral being decided within a year at the most, a year and a half, and then execution of an award maybe within a span of 1 year. So therefore, litigation, the same issue which would be decided by a court
Mhm.
within, let's say, 5 years or 6 years, arbitration give you the opportunity of expediting that within 3 years. I know when I'm saying 3 years, it is still a long time, but
Mhm.
when we talk about, let's say, the legal time framework, 3 years is a very short term as far as legal standards are concerned.
Yes, sir. So that was quite interesting because they went over the details that you have said as well. Speedy trials, cost effective, and it's very personal too. Like the parties can put forth issues that they can't put forth in litigation.
We have had mediators come arbitrators whose first endeavor is always to send the party whenever there is a reference which started. For example, there was recently a matter, not recently, there was an arbitration which we handled in 2020,
Mhm.
where in which we were lucky to have with us as an arbitrator one of the most respected mediators of Delhi High Court. So
Mhm.
on the very first hearing, the arbitrator gave us the option, you take 2 weeks time, both the parties, try and first settle the matter. If you're not able to, then come back and then we will initiate arbitration. So therefore, mediation is even better than arbitration, because in mediation, both the party comes to a common consent, and it's even, it's a more expeditious, let's say, forum for redressal of a complaint or redressal of a grievance as compared to arbitration.
Yes, sir. So those are the hybrid ADRS that go on currently. Because usually it used to be only one mode, correct, sir? If I am correct.
No, you are absolutely right. But in our case, it was an arbitration proceeding. But the reason that we had a mediator acting as an arbitrator, his first endeavor was to get the matter settled through mediation.
Okay, got it, sir.
Yeah.
So if you would like, we could go to the questions of the interview.
Of course.
Yes, sir. So the first question would be, during your career of law, what was the most important learning in your life?
You know, the most important part of litigation is learning, or let's say, getting knowledge from wherever you can get it. It can be having a discussion with your senior over a cup of coffee. It can be sitting in the courtroom, which is an absolute must for youngsters, something which youngsters these away are shying away from. The kind of experience, the kind of exposure which a person gets by merely sitting in a courtroom is second to none. Then another issue which I would say, let's say, suggestion which I'll make is that research tool, most of the young people whom we have in our associate, they directly go to Google searches. Youngsters have lost the habit of going through commentaries. The best part about reading a commentary, the best part of doing research by way of a commentary is that once you have a commentary, you take it out for one case, you ended up having authorities for at least 10 cases. So that is something which research, online research cannot give you, because on online research is very specific, very specific.
Yes, sir.
Knowledge from your senior. Always try and get as much knowledge as you can from your seniors. The way you address the court, sometimes you may not know a senior, but the mere fact that you are watching a senior addressing the court, the manner in which he's addressing the court, the way he handles himself, the way he put forth his arguments, that is something which you can learn merely by observing a senior. So therefore, that's why I'm reiterating my step that for youngsters, court watching is a very, very, very crucial part of this profession.
Yes, sir. I actually would agree to that fact, because like all these time period in COVID, our classes were mostly online. And now we got the opportunity to go to class in person. And just going to class in person, like, I feel that I am more attentive, and like, I'm listening to the questions that people ask. And just being here in person in Pune, I'm also able to go to the courts and sit in the courtroom, and I'm able to like listen to family matters. For example, there was a mutual divorce case, and the lawyer that we were interning under, he showed us how to apply a mutual divorce, the whole procedure from the application to the hearing of to its first hearing, and then they let the parties go into counseling for about 2 to 3 sessions. And even if after that they are not they don't want to still live together, then the court would help
their own separate ways, and then they agree upon the division of the assets and all those things. Yes,
yeah. So
all these things are you learn by merely being present there.
Yes, sir, I definitely agree, because there are some things that we learn in class, but only if we go in person, we're able to see the actual practical aspects of it. Thank you for
example. For example, theoretical knowledge is very different from your practical knowledge. For example, in CRPC, you would go through the entire, let's say, the entire barrack. But when it comes to practical application, 156.3 is something wherein which maybe your teachers will give you one lecture, but the entire criminal practice is based on 156.3 and all those things. So therefore, the practical aspect of law is very different from the theoretical aspect.
Yes, sir, I definitely agree to that part. Thank you for answering that question. I would like to move on to the next question. So what is the change that you wish to see in the Indian judiciary, if you would like to see any change?
You know what? I would not want to. I would not want to say a change, but I would like to come. I would like the executive to come to the aid of judiciary.
Mhm.
The judges, the people to judges ratio of India is one of the worst. So therefore, judges, I've got. Luckily, my senior was just my senior has just been called to the bench. So therefore, I know this for a fact that my senior has been putting his life and blood in trying to complete his matter, but it is humanly impossible for a judge to read 120 files per day. So therefore, the only change or the only improvement which I would request, or which I can, let's say, pray for, that the number of judges should be increased. Be it judges at the district level, be it judges at the Delhi, be it judges at the High Court level, or be it judges at the Supreme Court level, because the ratio is very bad right now. And our judges, despite their best effort, are human nonetheless. So therefore, yes, once the number of judges will increase, the workload will reduce, the, let's say, pendency of the matters would automatically go down.
Yes, sir. What would be a reason that you think that there aren't a lot of judges appointed in India?
As far as I can say, infrastructure is one of the biggest drawback. For example, for the purpose of, we don't have adequate space to make new courtrooms, we don't have adequate infrastructure. So even if there is an appointment of judges, we have to provide them with the necessary infrastructure of conducting the court. So therefore, judicial infrastructure is very bad as of right now. So first, judicial infrastructure needs to step up. Then we can work upon increasing the number of judges.
Yes, sir. Currently in the Pune District Court, they have been demolishing buildings, and all the district court and criminal courts are mixed up because of that. Yeah.
You have seen it firsthand that if we don't have the judicial infrastructure, where will our judges sit? Where will all the reports go? Where will trials be conducted? Where will cases be heard? So therefore, number one, judicial infrastructure needs to be improved, and needs to be improved drastically. And then we have to come back on the number of judges.
Yes, sir. I would very well agree to that. The third question would be, what message do you want to convey to the next generation?
That's what I told. But as far as the next generation of lawyers, the next generation of individuals.
I'm sorry, sir?
Next generation of lawyers, the next
Yes, next generation of lawyers, and you could also say the next generation of just youngsters.
As far as youngsters are concerned, I've already shared with you beforehand that young generation needs to improve themselves. They are very bright. Let me say this, the kind of young blood which we have. I've got young associates who have just joined my offices, and it's a pleasure having them. But we learn something from them, and then we expect them to learn something from us. So therefore, it has to be two-way street.
Yes, sir.
I would say concentrate. I would say the youngsters are doing everything right. Everything right. The only thing which I would suggest them to do is that learn something from our past. Learn something which our mentors have taught us. So therefore, if we share our knowledge, we would want youngsters to take, at least to try and understand what we are telling them, how we are mentoring them, and take that mentoring very seriously.
Yes, sir. So for example, like I totally understand, like if it's like 20 years of experience and you're able to like feed the mentor all those experience, like that's for him or her 20 years saved in her like practice.
So for example, youngsters these days, as far as my team is concerned, they don't have the patience of sitting in the courtroom. So there is something which I have been trying to tell. I have tried and I have failed to make them understand the importance of sitting in the courtroom. Reading books. Another thing, for example, for an advocate to have a good vocabulary, you have to read.
Yes, sir.
Youngsters shy away from books.
Yes.
Therefore, it has to be. I remember my summer vacation. Within a span of, let's say, 10 days, 15 days, I used to go through 3 or 4 books. It can be anything. It does not have to be those productive books. It can be fiction. It can be anything under the sky. But read something. at least, because the only way in which you can work on your language is by reading.
Yes, sir. Also, what do you think about technology and how to integrate technology into courts? Is that something that you think would be beneficial for courts in the future, or how do you see this, sir?
It's actually a very important aspect. The very reason that we are having this conference, whether in Pune, I'm there in Delhi, is an example upon how much technology has developed and how much we as an advocate have, let's say, adopted to technology or getting used to the fact, at least trying to adopt with that technology. Again, I would come back to my own example. My father's team still, there is still two school of thoughts in my chamber. The youngsters are a big fan of VC hearings, and whereas my father's old team are still against VC hearings. They would still feel, if given an option between going to the courtroom and arguing a matter on the net, my father's team would always choose to go be physically present there, whereas youngsters would say, sir, by VC we have an option of at least handling different courts. You are able to optimize your time to the best.
Yes, sir. Got it.
During COVID, during the lockdowns, when the entire world was in standstill, the mere fact that our courts had switched over to hybrid system or to virtual system, many matters, for example, many of our matter which have been pending for years altogether, we got the opportunity of, let's say, arguing those matters, getting those matters finally disposed of. So technology is a very crucial part of this profession. And in this case, the youngsters are absolutely brilliant in adapting to that and changing technology, whereas the older brigade still has to work a lot on that. And then they have to come to the fact that technology is something which has been infused in our profession and they have to get used to it. There is no other way.
Yes,
and
sir.
it is a boon. It is a boon.
Yes, sir. I've also seen like so many piles of files in like the courtrooms. I feel like all of those can be maintained in like a database where people can actually access and go through those files, and like there's
As far as, for example, litigation is different. When we come to arbitration, arbitration is a very, very voluminous affair. One file bag can be replaced by a mere iPad.
Wow. Okay.
But you have to get used to the habit of using that iPad. You have to get used to the habit of using bookmarks and all those things.
Yes, sir. For sure. There's also AI coming up, so artificial intelligence. How do you see that affecting courts by any?
Look, as far as the court are concerned, AI can never replace the judges. The AI can merely facilitate our judges try and reduce their workload. For example, there was an article which I had read in Times Magazine, wherein which AI was adopted by the American courts for the purpose of researching upon citation and all those things, on updating the database of judges. So therefore, the AI can aid the judges and reduce their workload. And yeah, of course, any assistance which our judges, which our advocates can get is always appreciated. It's always welcomed.
Yes, sir. I've also seen AI softwares where it's like e-filing and all the, for example, the format of the applications are already there. All you have to do is
fill in the details, yes.
Yeah, fill in the blanks, for example. And I've also seen that courts are now integrating, for example, if someone is speaking, automatic translation using, for example, Google Translate, and it's just able to document it. But I don't know how efficient that is, but I've just heard about all those developments.
At least it would be a time saving. It is a time saving exercise nonetheless.
Yes, sir.
Rather than a typist recording the entire transcripts, his or her role would be limited to editing that transcript. Therefore, that amount of workload of that steno or that court recorder is at least reduced by AI.
Yes, sir. Also, I didn't know there was a clerk and a stenographer in courtrooms when I went for the first time. Only then I was able to like realize that there's a stenographer and a clerk like who sits next to the judges.
That's why I told you about infrastructure, school court infrastructure. We need spaces for all these people.
Yeah,
Oh,
for
no, we need a record file. We need places for all these people. We need we need chambers for the judges,
Mhm.
office spaces for the administrative side, courtrooms, and all those things.
There's like one half of the courtroom was the courtroom, and the other half was, for example, just files and piles of documents, and like it didn't seem like a courtroom. So like I definitely agree to the fact that
You just have to they have to make do with whatever resources they have.
yeah, yeah. Well, I think that those are all the questions that I have, sir. I really appreciate you taking your time again.
Again, the pleasure is absolutely mine.
Yeah, I would definitely like to stay in touch.
Also, it will be a pleasure to be in touch with you as well.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
You're most welcome. And I'll take your leave now.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So thank you and all the very best.
Thank you,
And
sir.
hope to see hope to see a smart young brigade join us in a profession real soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. I will always, I'll stay in touch and I'll update you on whatever I do.
All the very
Yes.
best. It was a
Thank you,
pleasure
sir.
talking to you. Take care.
It was nice talking to you as well. Bye, sir.